Welcome to our fireside chat today. We're going to be talking about engineering affiliate growth in an AI first world. I'm Lori Cutts. I head up agency and strategic partnerships here at Everflow. And today I'm joined by Monica Nyblack from LQ Digital. Over the past year, digital marketing has changed a lot, particularly with AI and large language models entering the mix. So today we're going to explore how this impacts search, affiliate marketing, content strategy, and AEO, or answer engine optimization, as it's also known. And before we get started, I just wanted to say thank you to Monica for joining us today. We're excited to hear your perspective. And to start things off, can you just quickly introduce yourself and share a little bit about what LQ Digital does?
Sure, Lori. Thanks for having me. First off, I always find these fun. It's been a while since we've been able to connect like this, and I'm excited to be here again. So, yes, as you mentioned, I'm Monica Niblack. I'm the president of agency services at LQ. And LQ, we like to think of ourselves as a growth agency. What we're really about is how can we use digital marketing to help our clients find their most profitable customers, right? We're focused across the entire ecosystem. So everything from programmatic paid search to what's near and dear here, affiliate. So we love to tackle large, complex industries, big problems, and figure out how to keep innovating to help companies grow. And I got to say, now is definitely a time where there's a lot of innovation going. It's been quite fun.
That's great. Yeah, a lot of fun things going on in the digital ecosystem these days. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. You've been at the forefront of a lot of the changes that have been happening. So really excited to get your perspective. So let's start broad. Let's talk about some of those changes in digital marketing over the past year. What's your take?
Well, look, there's been a lot of change recently, right? We like to kind of when we were getting started, which, whoa, I don't like these numbers these days, but like we started about 20 years ago as a company. They're getting big. And it was right at this time where everything was changing, right? Google was new. How you got discovered was different. And I feel like we're kind of starting to get into that same notion, and it's energetic, it's exciting, right? So kind of the biggest change that I'm seeing is how people are just getting discovered is shifting. AI is really changing that. If you think back to kind of how we used to find information for so long, it's been search, right? That was this huge disruption, right, from the yellow pages of long ago, but it's been pretty constant. Suddenly, answer engines show up, and the way user behavior operates changes really fast because you can get information just in seconds. What used to have to be a long research journey, even on Google, is suddenly really, really fast. So discovery is evolving, and it creates this huge opportunity, and it's fun, but it's also risk, and it's definitely a lot of change.
Yeah, it's incredible how quickly answer engines have come to the forefront. And then brands really have to adapt to keep
Yeah,
up.
it can be head spinning. Funny story. I was actually on maternity leave at the end of 2024 and 25, and it was such a strange time to step away from just a few months because people were barely talking about it. Then fast forward just 5 months and it's everywhere. And I say that because it can be so head spinning for brands, but that's why like it's so great everyone's here, because the more you learn and engage, there's huge opportunity for people.
Yeah, there's absolutely a lot of buzz and excitement around AEO right now. Can you share for the audience, like, what is an AEO strategy, and why is it important for SEO teams, and why should affiliates care?
Sure. So first, as you mentioned, AO, answer engine optimization. It's essentially how do you organically get placed in answer engines. And one of the reasons it's so important today is because, yes, ChatGPT is piloting ads, but you have Claude over here saying, like, we don't want to use ads. And so there's no one standard way to get put into all of these answer engines right now, except for organic. So if you see this huge change where all the discoverability is happening in a new medium, or a lot of it, then you need to make sure your brand's there, because if you're not present, you have a huge risk. So that's kind of at the highest level why it's important. But similar to SEO, right? Search engine optimization. It's an organic strategy, and there's a lot of kind of core similarities in it that are important. lot of them don't matter to affiliates, like technical considerations and kind of foundational SEO. But the one that really does is this concept of brand authority and reputation. And what brand authority and reputation is it's how can someone know if your brand should actually be trusted? And the way LLMs use that is they know you can put whatever you want on your own site, right? So you can say the sky is red and there's no gravity or whatever you want to put there because you control that. But they want to make sure that if they're citing you a lot, they're using research and trust from elsewhere. And so they look to large, well-known third-party credibility. And this is what builds your authority and reputation. And this might include things like government websites, social media. I bet you've heard Reddit and YouTube mentioned a lot recently as
Absolutely.
AI. Yeah. And review sites, think Trustpilot, Yelp, and other large affiliate sites, because these are a huge place to get third-party content. So you can kind of think of it as the new link builders, right? When SEO first started and there were all these link farms and link builders, well, affiliate didn't help with that because Google and everyone knew that these were kind of partnerships. So they ignored all those links, but you don't ignore all the content, right? So the LLMs are picking up all of this content, and suddenly you see affiliate is in a place to be extremely influential. So kind of what is extremely influential? Let me give you a few kind of numbers, because personally, I always think that helps. We do a lot in personal finance, and we've monitoring the personal finance vertical, a huge kind of amount of just generic prompts that are useful for the whole vertical. And what we see consistently is about 40% of those citations that the LLMs are referencing in this vertical are all coming actually from affiliate. Think things like Forbes, Business Insider, Money, NerdWallet. And so as you think about kind of citations, you need to start thinking about what you can control. And so here at LQ, we've thought about this as the concept of influenceable media, right? These are sites that you can work with as a brand to influence by leveraging incentives. And it's all affiliate, really. It's just a different flavor of how you can use affiliate. So this was kind of a long-winded answer, but let me just summarize it for people. Why does it matter? Discoverability. LLMs are huge in discoverability. How can you influence your discoverability? Well, affiliate is one way to do that.
Yeah, so now's the time to get into AEO is what it sounds like if you're not into it already, and that it's critical for discovery. And not only are they using content from their website or from your website, but affiliates play a huge role in driving a lot of those, sort of those answers. So when brands are looking at affiliates, how should they evaluate them to figure out like which affiliates are most likely to influence AI answers?
Sure. So if you think about wanting to influence AI answers, right? What you're really trying to do is influence the citations within the AI answers, because essentially that's what develops the content. And there's kind of three core things that can do that: reputation, traffic size, and content relevancy, right? Because it's looking for all these things in these third-party sites. So how do you know if a site's already doing this? You want to start there, right? Are they being credible today by generating citations? And what you need to do is find data. We're very data backed here at LQ, and I'm sure everyone on this call is too. That's one of the great things about the Everflow platform is all the data. So what kind of we want to think about is, what are the prompts you care about? How can you understand them, right? So first you need to kind of start to build a strategy to see what's happening. And we call this prompt design, right? So how do you think about when someone's doing research, what personas and funnels are you trying to lead someone to? So how can you start to design kind of prompts to see into this? So once you have that understanding of what's happening in AI today, you can then start to kind of track this visibility, and you can reach out to those partners that are influencing it today. Or you can start to think about which partners could potentially influence it that are not. And so essentially you want to understand the relevancy, reputation, and existing citations of your partners for those key themes that matter the most to you.
That makes so much sense. So Prompts are really, it sounds like prompts are really important, because if you're not designing the right prompts and tracking the prompts, you're kind of missing where the decisions are actually happening. It's all about the reputation, content relevancy, and citations. And I would imagine that different prompts could mean completely different results. So you want to make sure that you're kind of showing up, not only for like something more broad, like if you're searching on like best running shoes, maybe you're cited, but if you're looking for like best running shoes for flat feet, maybe you're not. So it sounds like that's a really key area for evaluation, is just like looking at some of those prompt level tracking to see if you're performing well and not missing any key moments or key buying moments.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and kind of that's how we like to approach it, right? Think about kind of that entire research discovery, the marketing funnel, right? Awareness, consideration, like the kind of the close. What are the core themes that someone might be looking for in AI for each phase? And then how do you want to be showing up for each? Because when someone's starting their running journey, right? Like, what are the best running shoes? Just high level, or I'm going to start running. What do I need? That would probably be a good one in January when everyone's setting their goals. It's going to be different than someone who's a marathon runner, has done it for a long time, has a specific pain point they're trying to solve. And your brand might be very good at one or not the other. Like, you want to make sure that kind of based on what audience you're trying to get to, you're showing up for that full funnel for them.
That makes so much sense. And in terms of measurement, how can brands measure if their AEO is working?
So visibility is the start. I think you're going to hear people talking about visibility a lot, right? You have been, but we kind of like to think about how can you go deeper than just, are you being seen? Are you being mentioned? So we've broken it into 4 core components. And essentially, one of the things that guides these components is AI is creating the ability for huge disruption in categories. And you want to make sure that you're leveraging your visibility to have as much disruption as possible by taking mind share away from your competitors. So the first is, are you there, right? You want to be mentioned kind of more than everyone else. Like, if you're showing up for 90 out of 100 and your competitors are only showing up for 50 out of 100 prompts, like, that's great. But then the next thing is, how many times are you being talked about? Because I'm sure we've all had this experience where AI gives you just an essay, right? I'm constantly telling my chat that be brief. Like, I don't want the 5,000 word essay on the answer. I want the conciseness. And so kind of for that reason, you need to make sure that you're being mentioned multiple times, because if you're buried just in one line in a long response, someone might not even catch it. And in that same, bless you, in that same kind of concept, you want to be there first. If you get mentioned first early on, you're going to be top of mind before others are, just like we think about the Google page, right? You want to be up top. And then lastly, you want to be mentioned more broadly than your competition. It's good to have a higher share of voice. So let's think about visibility. Let's think about kind of what helps with visibility. It's being there frequently, being there first, and being there for a wider set of prompts than others.
That makes so much sense that you want to invest now. Just make sure you're visible vis-a-vis your competitors, and to leverage AI to take mind share from competitors as well. In terms of leadership, how should affiliate leaders define success in LLM environments? What does winning look like beyond ranking and clicks?
Sure. So the goal is really discoverability, and take a second if you need. I'll talk for a minute for you. The goal is just, yeah, it's always fun live. The goal is discoverability, right? Because what you want to do is, if the research journey is changing, how can you use that to take market share, right? And the way you can kind of think about winning is, are you getting citations and saturating kind of the prompts in a good way? So first, when you think about kind of how to design success, right, the high level, your goal is to drive discoverability and take share, but you need to measure that in the day-to-day by making sure you have kind of a high amount of citations and saturation. And so with citations, the way you can think about that is, are the partners you're working with getting picked up in the LLMs, right? Can you point to, say, here are the 5 partners I've been focused on, and you can see that these 5 are getting picked up more than others. That starts to become your first line conversation that you can have in talking about the impact of your strategy. And let me kind of show you some or tell you about some examples of that. So that's step 1. But then the second is kind of, can you use them to push out your competition? And this is a live example of that. We have a client that we've been working with, and we have been able to start to look at their influenceable media in their space and see that we are consistently showing up for 80 to 90% of all influenceable media, meaning that portion of citations that can be influenced, they're there pretty much all of the time. So that started to help them take that share. But then what we saw over time is, competitors are trying to catch up and their own sites started to get picked up more. So then what you can start doing is working with your partners to find new pieces of information and content to build so that you can then start to increase that portion of influenceable media. And that's kind of what you, an affiliate, can do. You can first get your current partners that are showing up to take as much as possible, then try and grow the amount of your partners that are showing up.
Excuse me. That makes so much sense. Looking at which publishers are getting cited, which pages are influencing responses, which partners are shaping recommendations. And it's always good to keep an eye on the competition to see what they're doing and making sure that you can optimize that to continue to have that visibility and impact in the answer engines. Next question is, should affiliate content strategy evolve to prioritize citation worthiness over pure conversion optimization?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to this, it's not one or the other, right? It's not that black and white, it's both. So at the end of the day, all of this is about economics, right? Everyone is trying to grow their business. And so all of this is done with the goal of how do you close business? How do you continue to grow? But you need to make sure that you're aligning it to kind of what part of the business is happening. So first off, if you're not present when someone starts their research journey, it really doesn't matter what happens later on. You're not going to grow their business if you're not even being considered. And I think this is especially true in verticals with a heavy amount of research. So for example, in B2B, people will commonly talk about the day 1 list, right? This is the list of companies someone's going in with when they're thinking about buying. AI can really help you build that day 1 list extremely quickly. And so frankly, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of strong reviews and you're the best product. If you're not on that list at the beginning, there's a very high probability you will not be purchased. So I say all this because it's not, is it citation worthy? Is it conversion optimization? It's the entire experience. Affiliate can represent the whole marketing funnel, right? Pretty much any type of site can be a partner. You need to make sure that as you are thinking about both branding and direct response, you're using your partnerships for all of them because it's really both.
That makes so much sense. So it can't be one or the other. You got to focus on both citation worthiness and conversions, and especially when it comes to buyer journeys like B2B, making sure that you're in the mix can really help your brand stand out amongst the competition. In terms of brands paying for influence, should they start paying for influence, not just performance? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's really about aligning incentives to the goal of any particular initiative, right? So I like to think of them as complementary. You want to look at your holistic strategy and kind of what is the goal of each thing you're doing. Are you engaging any specific partner or strategy just to try and really close revenue, or are you engaging it to build discoverability? Because if it's discoverability, then you need to be thinking about it like an awareness consideration play, right? It's not really fair to hold someone to kind of a closed metric when the goal is discovering branding. That you need to be comparing to, say, your upper funnel initiatives, right? Like CTV, programmatic. If it's having that role, think about how you might pay there. If you're trying to use someone just to close, then it's probably a pure ROI play. But the concern that we see a lot is people are trying to run branding efforts as performance. And it's not really fair to the affiliate channel, and it's not fair to your specific partnerships. And frankly, it can kind of cause long-term harm to the brand because people are just not engaging with partners that are driving huge influence simply because they're not adapting their thinking and economics fast enough. So really, you have to be careful to avoid kind of last click thinking on an upper funnel partner, excuse me.
So it kind of parallels what we see in affiliate as a whole, that, you have your upper funnel partners that you want to reward differently than some of the bottom level partners, and
Exactly.
making sure that you're kind of compensating them differently or measuring them, in different parts of the customer journey. So that makes a lot of sense. In terms of who should own AEO, is it the SEO team? Is it the affiliate team? Is it the brand or a new team?
Yeah.
Where should AEO land?
Well, at its heart, AEO is still organic, right? It's an organic strategy, and there's a lot of overlap to SEO. So it makes sense for it to be one organic team. That's how we think of it here at LQ, right? We no longer have an SEO department, we have an organic department. But what I see is kind of evolving is we all talk about integrated media. We all talk about how it should be one comprehensive strategy. But the reality of what I've seen for clients for a long time is that you had kind of an integrated paid media strategy, like the media buyers. But then SEO sat over here in a swim lane, and affiliate kind of sat in this other swim lane. With AEO, that can't happen anymore. You really truly need that integrated team because affiliate is a really key ingredient to success, right? Like AEO has become a team sport. You have to operate as a team. Your affiliate managers need to be working closely with your organic, because if the organic is not leveraging your partners, you're missing this huge portion of what it means to gain influence and how you do it.
Have you seen any strategies for kind of helping teams avoid kind of that siloed work that they've been doing before? What have you seen kind of working?
You got to push people out of their comfort zones, right? You got to talk to each other. So I think it's so easy to just stare at your dashboards and people kind of get used to what they've been doing. But what works is just leveraging data to talk to each other, right? And kind of getting integrated cycles such that you can use your data to say, hey, here are the biggest opportunities we're seeing. How can affiliate go influence it and just build connected strategies as a team, right? It's moving to that team mentality.
Makes so much sense. And then my other question about this is, how is this getting reported to kind of the executives on the teams, like all of the AEO, since it kind of crosses all the teams? How are they kind of getting pulled in and being informed of the metrics of success for AEO initiatives?
Yeah. So, I mean, at an executive level, it kind of depends on what your core metrics matter to the business. But I think everyone running has a few different goals, but pretty much for everyone, one of them is visibility, right? Because I think if you're investing heavily in the strategy, then you kind of understand that there's some inherent value to making sure that you're actually discovered and present as users are moving over. And so I think that's step one, is that visibility. And then how do you start to connect it to all the metrics in the business that matter?
That makes so much sense. And my other question around measurement is, how do you measure incrementality in ROI if you don't get clicks from citations? Would you consider that last click attribution is officially broken? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, last click attribution's been broken for a long time, right? But yeah, I don't think this helps for sure, right? So we all are kind of used to that zero click concept at this point. I feel like it's been talked about for quite a while, but to kind of use that concept of zero click, if we're in a zero click environment, it's useful to borrow playbooks from kind of other zero click situations. And that's actually been around for a long time. Think about billboards, think about like team sponsorships, think about just the generic TV ads. And that's kind of where the playbook from media mix modeling can start to be applied to this AEO and zero click world we're now in, right? So how can kind of regression analysis and correlation start to tie into what you're doing? And so when you're looking at kind of holistic measurement, of course, you can look at things like referrals from the AI engines, right? I see a lot of people who have just seen kind of like their chat GPT, for example, start to increase as this happens. But that's just the start. You want to start to look at, are your efforts in visibility and increases in citations, as you see that happening, is that correlating to increases in site traffic? Because what happens is everyone starts, or a lot of people start their research on AI, but we also all know that it hallucinates. We all know it's not always spot on. So once people kind of start to come up with their point of view, they then go research elsewhere. So they go to Google, right? There's been a lot of studies that show that it's a very common user pattern that people are still using Google search to confirm what they're learning. So if you're being effectively talked at on AI, you should see your organic start to increase, or on Google. You should see your direct to your site. And so you can start to kind of build tests around these concepts. And I'll give you an example. Say you're very focused on, you have two products, product A and product B. If you're very focused on product A, what you might see start to happen is all of that traffic start to increase kind of across everything and see a correlation in your visibility, while product B, it's not. So it's a little bit hard to prove causation, but if you have effective test design, you can really start to see kind of the benefits. And actually here at Elke, we've built a tool that allows us to watch this.
Oh, that's great.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Tell us more about the tool.
Well, it's kind of what I was talking about, right? It's how do we start to tie all of this correlation into it, and we call it LQ Vision, and it watches a whole lot of different things, right? First, are you seeing how our influence or how our affiliates influencing kind of lets you go deep down into this influenceable media? But then the newest feature that we're really proud of, that's early on and I think has big excitement, is this correlation. How can you really start to measure the impact of all these strategies? Because I know it's one of the questions everyone is asking.
Yeah, it's a big question out there. And it's so interesting that we're going back to like TV and billboards and kind of how they were doing things and using all that media mix modeling.
Yeah. Well, I laugh. It's all marketing at the end of the day, right? Like it might be a new medium. We might be all kind of talking to Chat and Claude and whoever all the time, but at the end of the day, it's still marketing, and there's a lot you can really benefit from if you approach it in that manner.
That's great. And then how does AEO change, would you say, in the affiliate universe, how does it change partner compensation models, would you say?
Yeah.
Just especially around the non-click kind of based compensation could be really interesting.
I mean, to your point, like for a while, we've kind of known there's more influence, but I think this just kind of supercharges that, right? So there's even more benefit to all this affiliate content than there was historically. And so it really does create a need for non-click based compensation. But I think what's really important to remember is you can still have performance aligned goals, right? So not tying the click doesn't mean that you don't have to tie it to performance. You can look at kind of what's the impact on citations, is content picking up? And so what you really want to do is make sure that you're building performance alignment to the right goals. And if that goal is AI based, citation based, then make sure you're building a compensation model that ties to that. Because discovery is what matters and content impacts that. But we see a lot of people who kind of don't want to adapt their payouts and don't want to add the additional measurement, and they lose out, frankly. And then they start to have to answer questions as why revenue is declining, and it's not a fun conversation to be in.
Yeah, so get ahead of the curve, adapt your strategy now. Learn, test and learn. Mm-hmm. Seems like the new strategy. We also had a couple of questions come in, so I thought we'd just answer a few of these. The first one is, if AI is changing how people find brands before they ever click a link, how should a CMO change their goals for the year? Is traffic still the right thing to measure?
I mean, I think it goes to discoverability. So I would say traffic is always important because they will get there in time. But what you have to make sure you're not doing is only looking at your own pieces. You have to make sure that you're showing up in the places where customers are starting that journey.
That makes so much sense.
Like one, I'd say one example that I find really interesting, if to keep using the B2B, is you're seeing buying cycles just compress massively. And I think I heard some stat that it's like over 70% is now done within the quarter. And so the research journeys are just compressing so much. And so it can hit you faster than you realize.
That makes so much sense. And in terms of since AI results rely so much on third-party content, who do you think should actually own the strategy overall at a company? Like, I know we talked about the SEO team, the affiliate team, both kind of owning it, but do you see like who do you see as the owner in an organization for that?
Yeah.
For everything to kind of funnel up until.
I mean, I think that's where you have to work a lot more closely with, like, affiliates historically been a performance team, but you have to start to integrate with the brand team also, because you need to make sure that that content is when you're influencing, right? Some you can't, but when it is, that it's telling the right story also. So you just need to have a lot more of that team mentality, because you're suddenly at a place where your SEO and organic team is working to build visibility while your affiliate team is working to build that authority, while all of it is being used to teach a robot how to talk to you, right? Talk about you. So you have to build content for the robots to then talk about you. And it just means you have to be very cautious and aware of the messages you're putting out there.
So it sounds like it's owned a little bit by the brand and by the SEO and affiliate teams, performance teams. Combo.
To keep using the sports teams, it's a team sport, right? You can't just be individual swim lanes anymore running your own race. It's a relay, and you got to all work together.
I know you talked a little bit about B2B and finance. Have you seen that there are specific verticals where AI visibility is really having an impact or impacting acquisition costs? I guess, which verticals are you kind of seeing taking prominence with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's taking prominence in a lot of verticals. You're hearing me talk about things like finance and B2B because at LQ we have a special focus on things that are long and complex. Those are just two examples of that. But I think what you got to think about what AI is helpful for. It's really helpful for research, right? It can accelerate your research very quickly. So anything that has a long considered research historically, you can kind of put an intern in charge of that in like a half an hour, and they can do a lot of that work. And so that's why you see things like kind of B2B. But also, where are other places that you maybe used to spend a lot of research? Travel, right? There's been a lot of conversations about how much it's impacting travel, because that's something that you typically spend a lot of time planning, and AI can do a lot of that planning. I actually had it plan a trip for me recently and give me 3 examples. And it's a place I've been a lot of times, and it found some cool things I didn't know existed in like 5 minutes, right? So it's really anytime that a consumer is going to be doing more research, I think that's just where it has more benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of using it for travel. I find it super helpful to find, hotels, airfares, looking at airfares, that type of thing. Super, super helpful. Yeah. So yeah, I think we've covered a lot today, and just wanted to leave for our audience if there's like a few actionable takeaways that you would recommend that they implement. What would you recommend?
So I think kind of what I would leave people with is, like, it's evolving a lot. So just keep learning. That's step one, right? It's great that you guys are here because it's fun time to be a marketer again, right? It's changing a lot. But remember that although you can't see everything and you have some kind of gaps, it's still really important, because I know some people are thinking just because they can't prove it immediately, they don't focus on it. But those are the people we're seeing really start to lose share, and it will hurt them a lot. So remember, you have an opportunity. Disruption creates a huge opportunity, and try and figure out how you can use that for your brand to take share from others, because that's really how you win.
So it's time to take the plunge into the deep side of the pool. Get your AI going. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me today, Monica. It's been great to hear your insights on everything AI, AO, and how it works together with affiliate strategy, SEO, pretty much all the different marketing channels. So excited to, and thank you to our audience who also joined us today. We appreciate your you coming, you joining us, and looking forward to doing another fireside chat in the near future.
Yeah, thank you everyone so much. It was fun. I appreciate it, Lori.
Thanks.